Welcome back. Now, the STC has a lot going for it, especially since the NPP appointed their former communications director, Nana Akumia, as its head. The STC has shown itself to be a force to be reckoned with in Ghana's transport industry, with a lot of success stories and innovations to share. So, what could be the turning point, and why has the STC decided now to be a road safety advocate? Let's find out together with Gifty Ando Apia as she interviews Nana Akumia.
From State Transport Corporation, it is now Intercity STC Coaches Limited. It's come a very long way. In 2017, I was here. Leadership at the time had changed, and it wasn't, long after I came in. Fairly in the third year now, it's good time to do some evaluation. I'm here at the STC and my guest today is Managing Director of the STC, Nana Akumia. Nana, it's a pleasure to come your way. Thank you for your time.
It's always a pleasure to speak to you.
Very well. So I want us to have this conversation, if you like, chit-chat on four main themes. Now, first of all, the STC's contribution to transport needs in the country, the STC's contribution to safety on our roads, the STC as a business that Ghana must necessarily make profit from, and then the STC under the leadership of former NPP Communications Director, Nana Akumia. Let's begin with the STC's contribution to transportation needs in the country. I came here earlier this afternoon and I didn't quite see the traffic that STC, the STC that I knew when I was a child would expect you to see. To what extent would you say STC is still relevant to meeting the transportation needs in the country?
Well, thank you. Yes, it's an interesting question. The focus of our passenger service has moved from this terminal to Kwame Nkrumah Circle. It was a very strategic move that has contributed largely to the commercial success of the company in the last 2 years or so. So what we run from this terminal mainly are the scheduled services. 2 trips to Tamale a day, 2 trips to Takrady, 2 trips to Bogatanga, 2 trips to Côte d'Ivoire, trips to Benin. There are 2 trips, 3 trips, 1 trip. We do, today as we speak, we've done 24 trips.
24 trips.
To Kumasi. So, and as I'm sure you know, Kumasi is the biggest commercial route for intercity transport. Accra and Kumasi are the 2 biggest cities, so you'd expect the traffic between the 2 biggest cities will be heavy. And so we've done 22 to Kumasi, and they are still loading. There are still passengers at our terminal.
So you're expecting to do 24 because you said earlier that you've done 24.
We've done 24. They are still loading. Okay. I'm sure by the time they finish around 10 p.m. they would have done. So the focus has shifted from this terminal to Kwame Nkrumah Circle. That's why you didn't see the same kind of activity that you expected.
So on to the relevance, what would you say?
Well, STC used to be the career of choice for Ghanaians. And then, because it was set up by the state in the 1960s, with the sole aim to provide comfortable intercity transportation for Ghanaians. Affordable, and all of that, and safe and comfortable. So the state will import state-of-the-art buses for the company. But over time, the company went into some very bad times. It nearly suffered the states that many state enterprises suffered, decline, and then they had to be sold. And I'm sure you know of many state enterprises that were sold off to the private sector. STC nearly went that way. Indeed, it was sold to the private sector in 1999. And even the private sector at that time didn't do too well. So the state took it back in 2002. And it's been with the states. But it could not quite capture its old days, basically because competition from the private sector had picked up. Because of the state support, STC enjoyed major advantages. But when the private sector also started buying luxury coaches, and then they were more nimble in terms of the decision making, they swept the ground away from the STC, and the company went into major decline. What we have done in the last 2 years to bring the company up is just to see what the private sector is doing and try
to reinvent the wheel.
To see what they are doing and also do it better. Now, you see, the way the average passenger behaves is that they would take they would travel from wherever they live, Latabi or Koshi or Bubuashi or Kaneshi or Mataheko or Mamprobi, wherever. They will take a trotro or taxi if they are traveling to Kumasi. Now, when they take the trotro or taxi with one bag, they will stop at the lorry station, in this case, Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Now, when they stop at Kwame Nkrumah Circle, look at the distance between Nkrumah Circle and it's about 1 kilometer. Now, if there was no alternative, people may walk from Nkrumah Circle to STC to board a bus.
We have thousands of
But now you have hundreds of alternatives of offering luxury coaches that STC used to be the only company. Now they are offering the OA, VIP, VVIP, M Plaza. They are offering luxury coaches, and they are sitting at Circle. So when the passenger drops from Mataheko at Circle, and he crosses the road and there's VIP, why would they travel 1 kilometer to STC? So really, we're doing, when in 2 years ago, we're doing just about 4 trips to Kumasi from this terminal. Now, we looked at it, the new team and myself, and we realized that we were not in the market. The market was at Nkrumah Circle. The market was at the lorry parks. And so we had to move. So we moved to Circle. AMA.
What was for you a way of making the STC relevant to
So when we moved to Circle, now we were in the market where the travelers were. And now we do an average of 17 trips to Kumasi a day. And we couldn't do 4 from this terminal. So a problem that then arose was that now you have 17, 18 buses that will go to Kumasi and only 4 will return. Because in Kumasi there's the same situation. So we had to then move to the main loading point in Kumasi, which was Asafo. It was when we got to Asafo that we had this trouble with the private sector.
And that's also some kind of trouble you had here in Accra as well, with those Asafo.
But now it's all been resolved. It's all been resolved, and we are operating not from Edum, our main station, but from Asafo, which is the lorry park. And so when Circle does 18, 19 on the average, Asafo does 17 on the average. So it's picking up. Now, based on that strategy, we are moving ahead to establish terminals. We've gotten a good terminal at Medina, which is a large congregation of travelers. STC is not there. We moved them. And we're also going to move to Kaswa, and then we're going to move to Amasaman, that corridor, Pokwasi, Insawam corridor. We're moving to Amasaman to establish a terminal. So very soon, the next maybe 6, 7 months, you will see STC terminals spread across the city, and then the service will really be available to Ghanaians. And then we have our other advantages, like the safety, before you become an STC driver.
And I'm going to come there because we want to look at it under the STC's contribution to safety on our roads, that theme. But to wrap up on the relevance and all that you have said, is the STC looking to do shorter distances, or is the focus just going to be on long distances?
Our strength is in the long distances. Okay. So we do We do 14 trips to Abidjan a week. We do 12 trips to Benin, Cotonou. We carry people across the French countries, from Benin to Cotonou, from Cotonou to Côte d'Ivoire, and then from Lomé to Côte d'Ivoire, and from Côte d'Ivoire to Ouagadougou, and from Ouagadougou to So we service the French countries a lot. And then we do Kumasi, we do Cape Coast, we do Takoradi. So that is our strength for now. You know, there's also Metro Mass. They do the shorter distances. They have buses configured for the shorter distances. Our buses are configured for
Well, a lot of people have said that if that is supposed to be a reason why STC will not want to focus on shorter distances, a lot of people have said that intercity is a pale shadow of itself. That intercity has not really met the expectations that people had. But that's not the conversation.
Why? I don't understand.
Well, that's a conversation we can have.
You want us to do shorter distances?
No, if that answer you gave was to say that STC just wants to focus on the long distances, then I'm saying that intercity has not necessarily been such a great alternative for shorter distances anyway. But that's a discussion we can have another day.
Okay. So maybe at that time I'll understand your question better.
hopefully so. So now that we're done with talking about relevance, let's look at the STC's contribution to safety on our roads. Now, let's begin. Earlier, you wanted to start talking about the things that you do that improve safety. But let's begin looking at the statistics. Last, I think 2017, when we had this conversation, you shared with us some statistics.
Yeah.
What are the statistics saying in terms of safety, accident, STC?
Oh, they've improved dramatically. I don't have the latest one. Normally, we rely on the Road Safety Commission to give us the statistics on a quarterly basis. This quarter, January, February, March, April, May, June, we'll have the latest statistics in June. But the last quarter, if I remember, they've improved dramatically. What we do, and I believe, you know, the main thing in this country where we have failed is, in terms of road safety, is just to enforce the laws. The law provides that highway speed should be 100 kilometers an hour. There's a reason for that. Many of the coaches, long distance coaches, have been configured to withstand impacts at that speed. So even if anything happens and there's an accident at 100 kilometers an hour, the frame, the chassis of these buses are designed to absorb the impact. More than that, the impact is transferred to the passengers. That's why there's always a 100-kilometer limit. And all we have to do is to enforce it. When you look at commercial traffic, the man wants to get to Kumasi so they can come back again. They want to go and come and go so they can make more money. So the natural tendency is to go quickly. And there's also a 100-kilometer speed limit. So if you leave it to the driver, he wants to go and come quickly. It will be difficult for them to limit themselves to the 100 kilometers.
Throw caution to the wind.
So what we do on our buses is that we actually have installed devices that limit the speed. So if you are an STC driver, it will be difficult for you to go beyond 100. I believe as a country we should do the same. We should require every highway bus to have that mechanism. If you fix it at, say, 120 kilometers, because sometimes you need to overtake, and when you are overtaking, you need to speed up. If you put it at 120, but even then an alarm will sound, so that after the safe overtaking, the driver will have to come to 100, otherwise the alarm will keep sounding. And these are very, very simple devices that you can install in every bus. We have them. So our drivers really are constrained from going more than 100 kilometers an hour. Also, we have a very rigorous driver training. You have to have your license F, which is the basic license that we have. And it's also the highest license when it comes to commercial driving. license F. It starts from A up to F. F allows you to drive. Before you get license F, it means you get from A, B, C, D up to F. The basic one is F that we require. And then when you come with the license F, we have a state-of-the-art driving school that will take you through for about 2 months. And then you do a written exams, and you must pass the written exams and all of that before you become a driver. So our drivers have gone through beyond the license, having the license F license. They're also required to go through a certification process here, which is very rigorous. And if you have time, I can take you to the driving school, so you'll see the kind of equipment that we have for training drivers.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
And so that also allows our buses to be safe. We have onboard cameras on all our buses. And so the driver knows that the performance is also being monitored. And that also adds as a break. It's not perfect, but all of this constrain the driver to drive properly. And that accounts for some of the safety records that we have.
Very well. Now, you spoke about enforcement, and this is something that I've heard a lot of people speak about. What do you envisage is really the bigger problem here? Enforcement or attitudes?
No, I mean, we all have good attitudes, you and I, but we have the laws. If you're going to rely on attitude, there will be no need for the laws. It's because you can't rely on attitudes. That's why there are laws.
And this is an argument I've been making the whole week, because the whole week I've heard a lot of government officials and a lot of people in government agencies blame everything, every problem we have on attitudes. But the point is, the attitude is the reason why there is a law, just as you have said.
Is it the same Ghanaian when he travels to, say, Europe, his attitude changes?
Because there are laws.
Because the laws work. They know that if they don't behave properly, the law would catch up immediately.
So it's not about...
No, attitude is just a little bit of it. It's the law, the recognition that I would be found out if I don't behave properly, whether I'm driving or whether I'm walking the streets. When I know that, take the secondary schools. Some of them are very disciplined because the administrators enforce the laws, and some schools are very, so but it's the same people. When you and I go abroad, we behave very, very well. I know of Ghanaians who, when they see police people abroad, they put their hands behind their back, even though they want to show the utmost respect.
Utmost respect.
So
that's a Ghanaian way of responding to
it shows you that the man can be a very responsible man when he knows that there are constraints. Yeah. So attitude is important, but the more important thing is to enforce the laws.
But you are in government. Your party is in government.
Every government.
Push it when it comes to.
You push it. Every government has been afflicted. Every government has been.
Would you say your government is overwhelmed then?
No. Look at this place. There are laws. Even our drivers, with all the constraints that we put, some of them still don't do what is required. When that happens, the discipline is swift. So even with the speed governance and with the training and all of that, when somebody misbehaves, we make sure that that person is punished. If you have an establishment where people are not punished, whether they are drivers or whether they are operations staff, then it creates a culture of impunity. So even anywhere, not just STC, even at your place, multimedia, if you don't enforce your punctuality regulations and dressing regulations, it will go haywire. It's same as the nation. If we don't get to enforce the laws, and it cuts across all governments, because these problems that we have with indiscipline has been with us for ages.
How do you think we can deal with this issue of enforcement? Because really, it's a big deal.
There are recognized authorities and institutions charged with enforcement, are there not? The police. The police is there, charged with enforcement.
Realistically, everybody has said that the police is not well equipped. It's not equipped well enough to deal with the issue or to enforce the laws.
I don't think the police in New York would claim that they have all the equipment they need.
But they're better equipped.
So, yes, it's your place at Joy at Multimedia. Do you think you have all the equipment you need? You don't. So there would always be constraints of equipment. But if your performance is good, no matter the constraints, the performance will be seen. So that is no excuse at all. And I'm sure you can point out to me many infringements. And you see, the police, and we have layers to the law enforcement themselves. They have authorities that will ensure that they enforce the laws. All those things should work. When you go abroad, it's just that the laws work. How do they make them work? The same people who are there, the same schools that we all go to, the same training, but they make sure that the laws work.
Okay. The last time I spoke to you, you mentioned this STC training school that you have.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned that there, as part of your mandate, and correct me if I'm wrong, as part of your mandate, you're supposed to help other private commercial journalists to also show up their skills. What happened to that plan?
Well, you know, like we had discussed, a lot of things ran down, but we've engaged some private partnerships, and that has led to a retooling of the driving school, modern equipment that I don't think any other driving school has. And then we reopened it again about 2 months ago. And so now we're getting a lot of interest from private sector because they come and look at the facilities and they know that their drivers will get good training. When you have a minute, I will urge you to go there and check it out. And multimedia is a private partnership.
I mean, these are those who are requesting for training.
Oh, yeah.
These are private commercial buses or bus drivers.
Yes, who are coming in for the training. And when people come and see, they want their drivers to come here for the training.
But we've not had any, say, advertisement or anything. So how do people even know that there is this resource they can tap for?
And those in the industry, they look around. They look around. But we are going to do a lot of advertising.
Okay, you wanted to give multimedia free services?
Well, at a discount. But if you have drivers that you want to be retrained or even trained, bring them here. So when you go and have a look, you will bring your drivers here.
I hear you. We'll see how it goes. We're having a chat with Nana Komia. Nana Komia is Managing Director of STC. So we're looking at the STC from 4 basic perspectives. We're looking at the STC's contribution to transportation, STC's contribution to safety on our roads, STC as a business that the Ghanaian must necessarily make profit from, and NDC, STC under the leadership of a former communication director for the governing NPP. We just finished talking about the relevance. We've also spoken a bit about the safety on our roads. Recently, we've had some very disturbing statistics. We saw one day, we saw a number of people killed in one day. Over 60 people killed in one day. When the STC, you as head of the STC, head of it, I'm wondering what went through your mind at the time?
Well, like every Ghanaian, I was extremely shocked for people to die under those circumstances. I mean, dying from natural causes is bad enough, but dying from in that violent manner, an accident and bent alive, I mean, you can't even begin to think about the suffering and the pain that the people went through. So we're all distressed. One, it made us also review our processes to reinforce them. You know, when we have night services, there are always 2 drivers in the bus. So whilst one is driving, one will be resting. And after every 4 or 5 hours, they change. And that is one thing that we do. We always have 2 drivers for any journey that goes beyond 5 hours. Now also, the night services, there are devices now. We have shown an interest and we've gotten somebody to come and do a demonstration for us. There are devices now that the night driver can wear, and when it monitors their brain waves, and when their brain waves show that they are feeling sleepy, it wakes them up. So we have invited a vendor who's coming to do a demonstration for us. But as a standard, all of our night trips, we have 2 drivers. And so we just went back to make sure that that provision is working. And also the provision about the speed limiters is also working. Once a while, some drivers, out of a certain desire, try to disable the speed monitor.
Oh, really? So they can actually disable it?
Well, these are gadgets. So,
okay.
So
and what's the punishment for such an?
Oh, of course, that will be dismissal if you are found out. But so we had the inspectors check all the 90 buses that we have to make sure that the speed governors are in place. And we also have a passenger feedback. So the telephone numbers of my deputy MDs, not some help desk. My deputies are on the buses, and so people can call. Passengers can call in when there's any complaint, and they can speak directly to the deputy MD, Kwabena Sintim Abuachi.
And that also. So far?
Oh, he's standing there. He will tell you sometimes it's terrible. He gets 40, 30 calls a day from passengers complaining about
I'm sure the time, because I remember one time I was traveling on STC and it took forever and there was no communication as to what is happening. At a point they changed the bus.
What I believe, the other thing too that the government should do is to create corridors for mass transport.
Mass transport?
Transport, yeah. The high capacity.
Okay.
So,
train.
Look, when we go into Kumasi, no, not trains, I'm talking of buses. When we are going to Kumasi and we set off at 4 p.m. from Circle, it takes us 1.5 hours to get out of the traffic. So passengers, we have to still stick to 100. Now when passengers are sat through 1.5 hours, 2 hours to get from Circle to Sawam, then they complain that they spend too much time on the bus and so on. Now, we don't have trains. What we have are the large buses. If government can create a block of lanes during peak hours, so OA, VIP, STC, once it's a high capacity bus, you use those lanes. It will help a lot.
Do you see that it is a realistic, feasible?
What is difficult about it?
You tell me.
There's nothing to it. No, it's just government determining to do it. It's not difficult. We are not asking government to build.
What we try to do with Intercity.
No, you mean the